Hello and welcome to another episode of Unfulfilled. I'm Luke, your host, and today I'm joined by Franz from the Hive App. He is the co-founder and managing director. Hive allows brands to scale their businesses with streamlined e-commerce operations. Hive have been able to grow their business from fulfilling around 30 shipments per day to now doing 10,000 shipments per day. They've gone from 0 brands 3 years ago to now 150 brands using the Hive app. The app integrates seamlessly and manages orders across all online channels and apps, including Shopify, Shopify Plus, and WooCommerce, and plenty more. The HQ is in Germany, but they have opened up 8 fulfillment centers across the globe in the past 3 years. They've grown their business to over 300 people as well. So today we're going to be discussing the how the scale happened, how they deliver such amazing service for their clients, what's next for the business, and so much more. Franz, I've really given you a massive opening there, but tell me more about you and the business, please.
Luke, great to speak, and thanks for that truly massive opening. Hope we can
Pleasure.
go through that journey together. It's my pleasure, and happy to be in the UK now and join that podcast. My name is Franz, as you mentioned, founder of Hive, and originally from Germany. Lived in Berlin for the past couple of years to build Hive over there, and now moved to London for our UK expansion. It's actually not my first time in the city here. Been here more than 5 years ago for a brief stint in investment banking, but that was not really a fit for me, not the entrepreneurial journey I was looking for. In between, spent some time in consulting in Germany, but now very, very excited to be back as part of the e-commerce world here in London.
Amazing. So tell me about how Hive started, Franz. What was the idea and how did you get to that point 3 years ago?
Yeah. Great question. I think there was never that one romantic moment, that one genius moment, right, where you wake up with one specific idea and then you drop everything, drop your old life and only focus on that one idea. It's rather a mental journey into it and looking at different ideas and then over time committing to a more specific business model. And for me, together with my 2 co-founders, Oscar and Leo, it was always an observation of the broader e-commerce trends. So we've been looking at the e-commerce space and the tools that brand owners are using for a number of years. I personally did an internship at Rocket Internet in Asia many, many years ago. I think that was 7 or 8 years ago. Back then, Rocket Internet was that German incubator. Not sure how well known it is in the UK, but they did build a number of companies like Zalando, HelloFresh. I think HelloFresh also widely used in the UK. They incubated these companies at a very impressive speed, and the way they did it was actually not true deep tech innovation in any way. They rather just took some modules like really good performance marketing or really good website building and smart payment integrations, and then they put together these modules and scaled it aggressively with a bunch of venture capital behind. And my co-founders and me have observed over the past 3-4 years that these modules are becoming much more accessible. So through tools like Shopify, Stripe, and others, these modules have become accessible to a wider array of e-commerce entrepreneurs, and it doesn't require huge amounts of venture capital to scale these companies. So it's basically a democratization journey where the tools get accessible to everyone. And we observed that more broadly, and then started looking into logistics tools. My co-founder Oscar spent close to 5 years working on logistics projects for McKinsey, so also in a consulting capacity. And logistics has been underserved for a long, long time. It's a crusty old industry. It's very focused on pleasing big corporate customers rather than independent brand owners. And you get very disadvantageous rates early on. And when we started looking more closely into that, we came to the conclusion that it must be possible to make logistics and operations more accessible. And that's how Hive was born. We started with fulfillment because fulfillment is one of the trickiest parts. Many brand owners have not the best relationship with their fulfillment partners, to put it politely. And we wanted to start where it hurts most, and now we're expanding into additional services from there.
Wow. Okay. And as I mentioned in my build up to introducing yourself, you've gone from like 0 to 150 brands. You've gone from 30 shipments, so 10,000 per day, like one fulfillment site to 8. Like, how have you been able to like do all that element as well? Like, you can tackle each of them as their own elements if you prefer, Franz, but like, that is quite scary growth in 3 years, in
Yeah.
my mind anyway, but maybe not in yours, but that seems like
Oh,
massive numbers.
same for me. I got some gray hair by now, so definitely
Yeah,
has
I've
been
lost on one, unfortunately. So
fair game. Let's see how long it takes me. No, so definitely has been quite a high level of intensity and speed over the past couple of years. And I think there's no magic recipe what it takes to achieve that growth, right? There's always a little bit of luck and several other components involved. But I think three things helped us to make that happen. I think number one, you gotta be working on a problem that really matters to people in a way that existing solutions are frustrating, ideally to an extreme extent. And many e-commerce owners are just really, really frustrated with their operational partners, with their warehousing partners, with their last mile delivery companies. So you need that frustration so that you can create something better without reinventing the wheel. Then second, you gotta be in a big market where you have a big number of people, a big number of companies who care about that. So you are not constrained by organic growth or your network too quickly. And obviously, everyone needs logistics, right? Every brand is spending somewhere between 5 to 20% of their revenue on operations and logistics. So it's a massive addressable market. And then last but not least, probably the most important to really do to have that success is the team that you're building with. Because a couple of founders only go so far, right? Hive did not achieve that success due to my work, but rather due to our team's ability to attract exceptional talent, put a lot of passion into the business, put a lot of passion into our clients, help them make successful, and multiply ourselves thereby. That's about it. Only with 1 or 2 or even 3 good co-founders, you're not going to get that far.
yeah, I mean, trying to, it's just, yeah, hearing about the opportunity that in the market, like everyone talks about, like if you're going to build a scaling business, that fixing a problem is the must have, right? Obviously, because if you think this is a problem and then you build something and you're not actually solving anything, it's never going to go anywhere. Were you hearing about the problem with fulfillment, the warehousing sort of side from your experiences and your other 2 founders? And was there also like another like sounding board, I guess, you were using to pinpoint this is the right one to go after?
Absolutely. So I think finding a sounding board, spending a lot of time with research is, in my opinion, even more important than the personal experience of the founders, because you need to make sure that others are perceiving a problem in a similar way you do. So we spend loads of time just talking to e-commerce founders and asking open-ended questions. It was very much like like research interviews for papers where you try to have very unbiased conversations, and we just asked, hey, what does the relationship and the daily communication with your fulfillment partner look like? What is good and what is bad about it? And then trying to get as many details as possible.
Yeah.
And we did more than 30, I think around 40, 45 of such customer conversations before committing to the Hive idea. And that was after having hints, after observing from our own experiences, Oscar working with really big warehousing companies at McKinsey, me observing brands being built up rapidly by incubators like Rocket Internet. That was after us having the hint that there's a problem. So you
Yeah.
cannot just trust your own observation. You need to get a lot of research from others in, and you need to have the courage to drop an idea as not relevant or a problem as not urgent enough. And many founders don't do that. They fall in love with the idea and then they don't dare to drop it if the feedback is shit. And
Yeah.
that's I think why many companies are started and don't really take off because people then don't have the courage to drop an idea afterwards.
Yeah. Makes sense. And you mentioned there about your team as well, like scaling the team and making sure you find the right people, and giving them the right tools to succeed. How have you been able to ensure the people you're bringing into the business are also on that same, journey and enjoy solving that problem that you've been able to do? Do you think?
Yeah. So we hired people in particular in the early phases of Hive for their entrepreneurial desire, probably even their wish to start their own company at some point, rather than a specialist skill set. That has been evolving with the growth of the company a bit. Now we're at a scale, right, where you, for example, need qualified accountants with a deep specialist skill set in a certain area. You can't just have a bunch of generalists trying to do everything anymore. But in the first year of the company, even the first 1.5 years of the company, we really looked for people who have a desire to build their own thing at some point. And that might mean that they leave us after a few years. We actually now have the first Hive alumni starting their own company or in the logistics space. And that's beautiful to see, despite being, of course, sad about people building their own journey. But it was very important for us to know that our team members take ownership to an extreme level, much more important than specialist logistics or e-commerce knowledge. And you can check that in the interviews. You can frame questions around your values. You can throw people into cold water, right? Give them a spontaneous business case study instead of just talking about their previous experiences. And that really helped us to attract the right talent that goes the extra mile day in and day out.
Amazing. It's a nice way of thinking about it, isn't it? Not being worried about potentially, 3, 5 years down the line of losing someone who is excellent, but actually utilizing, I should say, rather than utilizing their entrepreneurial sort of side to deliver an amazing service for Hive and for their clients. It's definitely a different way of looking at it, that's for sure.
Exactly. You cannot be anxious about attracting outlier talent for the reason that it might leave you again, right? And even hiring very impatient people that are telling you they look for the fastest growth journey possible, but they don't know what is going to happen in 1 or 2 years, is a risk worth taking as a company. And many people ask for the 5-year plan, I think, in a too stubborn way. It's good if people have a plan, right? It shows that people are mentally sort of structured, but it's fine to take that risk that people leave you at some point. Either your company scales so quickly that they will stay around because they can multiply their responsibility every year, and that's what is possible for many people at Hive, or they will at some point go on and maybe found their own venture, and that is fine. For the 1, 2, 3, or 4 years that you work with them, you have that amount of excess energy and that sense of urgency, and that everything matters in the company, that will make you much faster.
Yeah, incredible. Okay, and then the brand side then, let's talk about how you've grown from none to 150 in 3 years. How have you, this again can be such a big question, I guess, but I guess the simple one would be the how, like how have you done that?
Yeah, yeah. That's a complex question.
Not simple at all, no.
Try to I try to break it down. So I mean, I think there is the sub question that is super important is how did we get from 1 to 10 customers and made these customers really happy? Because if you have 10 customers that are just in love with what you're doing, you're gonna get to 100 rather quickly. So focusing on the quality of product market fit early on, I think is most important. Then later on, anyone can, hire some more experienced people to set up a professional sales and marketing structure and take the scale up journey. But if you don't have product market fit early on, then your journey basically stops there. And I think what we do and what we've been doing since day one at Hive is quite different from most logistics or operations providers in the sense that we work very, very closely with our brand clients and try to understand their revenue drivers and their customer experience drivers rather than just the logistics cost drivers. And what that means in daily life is, for example, that we spend loads of time trying to understand nitty-gritty topics like custom packaging or using different inserts for different marketing campaigns. These are sort of details, right, that can really level up a brand experience if you have that sustainable box to put your products in, and you have a certain insert for first time purchasers or people who spend more than £100 on their basket value. If you have individual touch points in that journey, that can make a huge difference for the brands, and logistics companies can enable that. But most logistics companies don't do that, right? They just focus on how to get parcels out the quickest way and the cheapest way. And we took a different approach. We talked a lot about revenue enablers with our brands. Then we spent months in the warehouse. We've built up a number of warehouses ourselves and actually had co-founders in the buildings, building up the shelves, processing the parcels, seeing the pain points. And by doing that over and over, we learned what it takes to make this individual experience more systematic. And then we developed warehouse software that allows us to do individualization, custom steps at scale. And all of our brands now can build their custom journey and can do different types of D2C and B2B orders with a different packaging per recipient, and can integrate different types of delivery options, plug and play, not just using Royal Mail or Yodel every time, but rather varying things, trying things out. And having that software now makes it quite easy to go to 100 brands, 150, 200. We're actually already by now at 160, 170 with assigned customers, want to go to more than 500 next year. And by now it's a scaling game rather than a product market fit game.
Amazing. Okay. And that probably leads us quite nicely onto the upcoming Black Friday event, which is obviously end of November time. I mean, you talked very amazingly about like how for you guys it's about almost being an extension of your client, right? Making sure that their fulfillment of their product going out to their customer is as seamless as possible. And that's, I think, what sort of sets these companies apart is that if, especially the partnering sort of side, if you're able to really understand what that brand is trying to deliver and trying to get to, then almost you work your way backwards from that to deliver them a bespoke solution to what they're trying to deliver, right?
Correct. I like how you framed it as us, Hive, being the extension of our customers. I would take it even a little bit further. We are the representatives of our customer brands at the doorstep where the final parcel gets handed over. We are we have to carry the torch for our brands, and therefore need to think in detail about about the whole experience. And it goes all the way through returns, right? If you send back a return as a customer of a brand, you often don't know when it arrives in the warehouse, and you have a delay in the refund being triggered, and then the brand ends up with a lot of frustrating emails. And we see it as our responsibility to create transparency when a return has been delivered back to the warehouse, to provide the information in real time and to enable an automatic triggering of the refund. And that has been, I think, a mental reframing of what a logistics partner is that made us more powerful. Because usually a logistics partner is saying, you are the brand and I provide some resource, and we try to make that resource as cheap and systematic as possible. And your crazy, funky idea around using 5 different boxes for a stupid marketing campaign is not efficient for logistics. So you need to change your brand philosophy. We, I think, reframed that successfully.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just going to switch this to recruitment as well, if I may, because I think if that's what we try and do as Fulfilled, is be an extension of that client, because we are also their brand and representative when you're speaking to prospective candidates in the market as well. And if you could deliver a really bad service to a candidate when you're trying to hire for a job, it only takes that one candidate to tell their mates, oh, don't go and work for, let's say, Hire, for this example, because the person who spoke to me he didn't come back to me, he didn't give me feedback on the interview or whatever it was. That's so important to me as well, actually, is being that extension to my clients and getting the clients buy-in to actually know Luke gives a shit about what he does. He gives a shit about making sure he gives the right service to the client and to the candidate. I know it's a different product, obviously, but
Yeah, but that's perilous. I fully agree that your responsiveness, right, as a recruiter, represents if people feel like they're acknowledged by the company trying to hire them. And that's similar with a parcel getting delivered. The parcel not arriving for 3, 4, 5 days makes the customer feel like the brand doesn't give a shit about the parcel arriving. So we, for example, try to establish email triggers. Yeah, so having automated email flows whenever there's a delay, like an out of stock situation, to get that information to the brand's customers in time. And the brand would be a little bit lost often doing that alone, because they don't have the automation flow set up, but they still get to feel the frustration from end customers. And of course, during Black Friday, that will be an extreme situation to handle for many brands.
yeah. So talk to me now then, Franz, about if you're going in to speak to a new brand who's joined you or going through that onboarding process, knowing that Black Friday is coming up, what are you ensuring that they've got ready, if that's the right sort of phrasing? Like, what is the thing that you are making sure that your customers are ready for Black Friday to ensure that they give their customers the best possible experience of using that brand?
Yeah, so basically how we would check their fitness for the Black Friday day. Great question. And we really take time with our account managers to plan ahead, and we have a quarterly business planning call anyway, and the Black Friday one is probably one of the most crucial ones. There's a number of components, and Black Friday performance between brands differs massively. Yeah, we see brands being able to make basically 50%, 40-50% of their revenue in a single month, and then we see in a profitable way. So not just revenue, but also good gross margins. And then we see other brands basically having a blackout with a nasty out of stock situation, or misplanning their marketing to an extent that the customer acquisition costs are so high that actually it's a loss-making event. And I think the difference usually does lie in preparation. And when we think about preparation, there's at least 3 dimensions that we would trigger our brands to think through. First of all, you gotta be aware of your strategy for Black Friday, because strategy differs for every brand, right? Of course, it's a crazy sales event. You can make a lot of sales, but it's not the right approach to maximize Black Friday discounts for every single brand. So, for example, if you are a very high-end luxury brand, you might not want your brand to be associated with discounts, and you want to think about that positioning very early on, so that you can then, in the execution, have that clarity on the back of your mind. We see, for example, a number of sustainable brands. We love working with eco-friendly brands, for example, doing recyclable cleaning materials, or refillable skincare, refillable body care products, where you don't have to buy a new plastic bottle every single time. And we saw a lot of success last year with brands basically changing the strategy of timing around Black Friday a little bit, and doing something like a green week or a green Friday instead of a Black Friday 1 week earlier or later, and thereby also avoiding the peak of inflated marketing costs. And that's all around strategy. So that has to happen 2 or 3 months before Black Friday really comes in. After that, once you have that laid out clearly, and of course, if you want to really maximize Black Friday, which many brands still do, and for many brands it's also still the right approach, then you have to communicate early enough with all your partners. And that's something many brands, I think, overlook. They focus on their marketing content preparation, and they might remember to reorder enough stock, or they might not, but everything around that is often a bit overlooked. And we would advise to have a check-in call with every single key partner you're working with, not just with your brand agencies, but also with your supplier in person, with your fulfillment company in person, and with any other stakeholder you have. For example, if you communicate to your warehouse, to your fulfillment partner, what type of product combinations, what type of bundles you're gonna push in your marketing campaigns, the warehouse has a chance to arrange the stock in a certain way and double or triple the picking speed, rather than being completely unprepared and not knowing what is being ordered. And that can ensure a flawless execution around Black Friday itself. So communication is, I think, after the strategy part, communication is most important. Last but not least, there's a lot of little optimization triggers in the execution. Happy to touch up on that, but maybe I pause here for a second and see if you want to go deeper into a specific part.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just, I guess you don't really think of that side, do you? If you're not in your world in terms of, in this sort of side, like you just don't probably give it enough thought about, as a consumer, Black Friday comes around, like, okay, I want to buy X, Y, and Z, let's just go and buy. You don't think about what happens on the other side of that screen in terms of, okay, I need to make sure I've got, 1,000 of those t-shirts in stock, 1,000 of them hoodies, them shoes, whatever it is, just to make sure, and talk about the optimization of packing as well. Like that sort of element, again, is so important, and to get it done right as well and get a specialist in place it's got to be the right thing to do, isn't it?
And absolutely, and it's touching every part of the supply chain or the value creation. Everything needs to happen at 10x the volume than it usually does. For some brands, it's even 20x the volume on Black Friday than on a baseline sales day. And honestly, before starting Hive, I would have had struggles to imagine that myself, what that physically means, right? Not only does your supplier need to be able to produce 10 times the amount, you also need trucks picking up that stuff and people processing it. So, for example, what happens to quite a few last mile delivery providers on Black Friday is that they quite simply run out of trucks, or that the delivery stations are so full that the trucks have to park in front of them overnight and cannot be unloaded. And I guarantee you, just making one additional phone call to the person taking care of your delivery, last mile delivery partnership, so that could be Hive or it could be you yourself as a brand, maximizes your chances that you get one of the earlier truckloads and your parcels get picked up from the fulfillment center and get brought into a delivery station, simply because people think about including you, prioritizing you in your planning. And when you don't do that, there's simply a significant risk that everything shuts down and gets processed with more than a week delay. And then, of course, with order cancellations, returns, and whatnot, your customer service is probably going to have the harshest day of the year, not on Black Friday, but roughly a week later. And of course, you don't want to expose the team to a crazy stress.
Yeah. Communication must be the biggest element, isn't it? Because I guess I know you've got to make sure you probably blend communication with that strategy piece as well to ensure you know what your focus is going to be on Black Friday. But if you're not able to clearly confirm that with your partners, as you say, then and it's, I guess it's just understanding. And do you help with this? Do you help them and say, okay, if this is your strategy, you need to make sure you do X, Y, and Z to make sure that actually the delivery is spot on? Or where do you sit in that process, I guess? Are you quite early on in them conversations, or are you more a case of, okay, this is our strategy, this we're going to focus on, this is where we need you to be on it type thing? Where do you sit in that
Yeah,
process?
So I think most importantly, we are one of the key partners that has to then provide the capacity for the volume that is happening, right? So we have to do our part with regards to fulfillment and last mile delivery and make sure that we get the information, get, for example, the estimated sales volume or the estimated time of inventory arrival before Black Friday. Is that going to be 3 days before or 2 weeks before? And that we get that information and process it. And if we don't get it, we need to remind our brands to do that. So this is, I think, most important, to get the basics here right and get the data that is affecting us. At the same time, we do try to be a consultant in a way. We try to be a strategic advisor and remind brands of the other parts of the chain. And if you as a brand did not have a quick check-in with every single of your business partners and team members on your Black Friday strategy, then you're making a crucial mistake, because most likely people will not know what's going to hit them. They will not know how exactly you're looking to play Black Friday. There's a lot to do afterwards, like small scale optimization, right? Making sure your website speed is top notch and can handle a higher load, making sure your product pictures and your product descriptions are updated so that people order the right thing and don't have a lot of confused returns. There's a lot of optimization in the execution. Happy to touch base up in that. But if I see one dimension that people are missing out on, it's communicating early and broadly.
Yeah, and that collaboration piece in terms of all of your partners from a brand point of view is so important, because, as you say, if one of them breaks, like a domino effect, isn't it?
Exactly. Absolutely. And we see many brands struggling with the first operational step of having the inventory at hand, right? Even if they have the working capital. For some brands, it's a financing topic. If you have very tight working capital as a brand, which many even really strong brands have, you need to organize some type of inventory financing. But even if you have the financing, some are just missing out on ordering early enough. It can be more than a month of lead time. If you're sourcing from Asia, it can be several months. And then if you have the stock arriving a day before Black Friday, your fulfillment partner might not be able to store it anymore. And then the train has already left the station before it even starts. And then, you will have to wait for a week or so at least.
Yeah. How much support does Hive give the brand in terms of inventory levels, in terms of all the levels? How much like data, if you will, does Hive give, and what's the reason that people pick Hive? There's a lot of questions there. Apologies. You can pick whichever one you want first, but
Let's let's start with the data, but then afterwards the um, most important or equally important part is making the data actionable, right? And putting our brands into a position to actually improve their supply chain. And um, when we start with the data, I believe a key difference to pretty much all logistics companies we know, and that includes tech-driven providers like Habu, Bird, Alaiko, a lot of our competitors that also raised a bunch of venture capital, but have their tech and their data layout structured in a slightly different way. So where we start here is really the data in the warehouse and having our own warehouse management system in place. That means you can see in real time what is happening in the warehouse. If we scan a single product at the packing table, you will immediately see that one item of inventory has been deducted, and you will see for what reason, right? Is it a B2C order or a B2B order? Is it already finished in the packing process or just in an early part of the process, like the picking process? So it's extreme granularity, and we make all of that data accessible, and we can only generate it by having our own warehouse software. And pretty much all of our competitors rely either on some legacy systems where you don't get real-time insights because it's siloed data, you can't see it as a brand owner, or it's not on a very granular level. Maybe a B2B order gets handled in the same way than a D2C order, which is an absolute nightmare as a brand owner. For a B2B order, you have specific requirements. You want to see if there's been delivery slips attached to the order. You want to see the packaging material used. And we just open that up completely in a completely transparent way. Of course, if we do a mistake, right, every 1,000 passes or so, we also do a mistake. You will also see it in our software. But we rather show our mistakes than not showing the data. And many logistics companies don't make that accessible. So you will know what is happening in the warehouse. You will know at what speed we can process orders, and you will also see the development of your inventory levels, so you can forecast when you want to replenish, including the time that it takes to actually for Hive to unload the inventory from trucks and put it into the shelves. Now, that's just data, and it does not necessarily mean that you act on it the right way yet. We don't just help our brands with fulfillment, we also help them with booking freight and with procuring packaging materials. And you can actually book a container from Asia to the UK through the Hive app, and you can get quotes for different transportation types like sea freight, rail freight, air freight, and compare both speed and costs of these delivery or freight types. And that is quite new. We developed that after the fulfillment service. It's a similar service to Flexport in the US or maybe SendCargo in UK is offering, but you can get it all in one place, and you have a more integrated view on your supply chain. And I think that really puts our brands at an advantage to take better decisions and not have many different tools and then lose out on information in between. And our target very clearly is to have our Hive brands performing on a more successful level than the average of the e-commerce market. And I think we've done that repeatedly.
amazing. What's the next 12 months look like for Hive, Franz? Like, where do you want to be? Like, if we spoke this time in a year, where would we be? Where would Hive be sitting in terms of everything? Like, yeah, what are your like key measurements you're now looking to go after?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So, of course, we are always planning ahead, midterm and long term. In the midterm, first of all, I'm super excited. I'm pretty hyped to be in London now. There's a lot going on here. Just moved here 2 weeks ago, but already met a bunch of brand owners and want to dive into the ecosystem more deeply. So we really commit to the UK and building up that market. I can tell as of now already that the market is a bit more vibrant than in Germany. I see it as basically somewhere between the US and Germany. I mean, the US of course still leading with regards to many consumer brands, and both the e-commerce and the logistics side is on a very mature level. The UK is following the US footsteps here very closely and is a little bit ahead of Germany. So I met many people already being super open to try new tools, having a very advanced technical mindset, which is amazing to observe. And I'm going to spend at least 3 or 4 months here now to build up that market for us. Afterwards, on the more longer term horizon, on a 12-month horizon, it's clear that we've already had some success this year that we want to amplify next year by working also with larger brands, bigger retailers and corporates, in particular on their internationalization strategy. So we help a bunch of brands to place inventory in additional countries and make their international sales grow better by having distributed inventory. So we are also going to work with brands doing more than 40,000 parcels a month. Yeah, often these brands already do more than a 50 million annual revenue. We recently started working with a brand holding doing more than 200 million annual revenue, and we're very excited to show our international capabilities for these big brands. Now, third, last but not least, in parallel, we are making our product even more accessible for small brands. We start working without strict minimum volumes. We do work with a number of brands still doing less than $1 million annual revenue. And we are now optimizing our self-onboarding flow, having the Hive App available in the Shopify App Store so that you can install it with a couple of clicks and don't need to pay for a highly bespoke account management to get going with Hive, and making that accessible more broadly, sticking to our journey of democratizing e-commerce by giving the tools out to all the entrepreneurs in the e-commerce world is something I'm excited about doing in the next 12 months.
Wow. Just a few small things then, just a few small plans.
There will be, yes, there will be a lot of more busy months to come. I mean, obviously it's been a busy 3 years.
Yeah.
We scaled the team to almost 300 people, so it's been
Yeah,
hard
it's
to
crazy,
find a
isn't it?
quiet for many years. But actually, I got lucky this summer and had the chance for a longer vacation for the first time. Spent 3 weeks in Asia, was able to really unplug.
Amazing.
Big love for my co-founders who covered for me, Oscar and Leo, really stepping in, and now I'm refreshed and ready for the next 12 months.
Yeah, that's the real reason you're in London. You can just get away from the other people. You need a bit of chill out time, isn't it?
Absolutely,
I've got
absolutely.
a
No,
feeling that you're going to be just out there all the time. You're going to be so busy. Like, I mean, and I know that we were hoping to meet last week, but I know there's a lot of really opportunity,
yeah,
really cool events coming up. There's a lot of really good, I think,
absolutely.
collaboration opportunities out there, aren't there?
Absolutely. The community is very vibrant here. I mean, you were in London last week for events. We barely made it because of sort of travel timings, but next week the e-commerce expo is taking place. When the podcast is being published, that already took place, probably 1 or 2 weeks before, and there's a bunch more events happening. Now is a great time for us also to meet with brands and talk about their planning, because Black Friday is around the corner, so it's a great time to engage with the community and get some
Definitely.
best practice.
Amazing. Franz, thank you so much. I thought we could probably carry on for a very long time, and I could cover so many more things. But yeah, this has been incredible, and maybe we need a part two potentially, maybe like a post Black Friday. Did it go to plan
Really?
almost?
Yes, hopefully, post success and not a post mortem review. But
Absolutely.
sure there's no brand getting it 100% perfect, and also no fulfillment company getting it
No, of
100%.
course.
Let's touch base
Amazing.
after.
Amazing. Franz, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, no, anyone needs anything fulfillment, reach out to Hive, reach out to Franz and his team. and they'll look after, and they'll be a proper partner, long-term collaboration with you. So don't forget to reach out to Hive if you need anything.
Luke, appreciate it. As you said, we're looking for long-term growth partnerships, taking on the responsibility of being our brand's extended representative. Was a pleasure chatting about this. I'm also open to connect to anyone in the UK, and thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you, mate, as well.
Have a great day.